Soviet planning and preparation is executed in absolute secrecy. Elaborate cover stories are created for everyone involved. Technicians work to build 9 sites under the guise of machine operators and irrigation and agricultural specialists. Khrushchev is assured that the missiles can be effectively concealed from U.S. intelligence. The U.S. begins receiving disturbing reports filtering in from Cuba, and the decision is made to investigate. America's U-2 spy plane, a high-altitude reconnaissance aircraft, is deployed to gather intelligence. October 16th, National Security Advisor McGeorge Bundy presents Kennedy with definitive photographic evidence of Soviet missiles on Cuban soil. This marks the beginning of the crisis for the president and prompts him to form the Executive Committee of the National Security Council, known as ExComm, a group of key advisors that includes his brother, Robert Kennedy, Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, CIA Director John McCone, and General Maxwell Taylor, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The group convenes immediately to assess the situation. Their meetings are secretly taped by Kennedy, using a hidden recorder known only to the president and his brother. On the 18th, the president has a previously scheduled meeting with Soviet Foreign Minister Andrei Gromyko. Kennedy attends, but doesn't let on that he's aware of the missiles in Cuba. As the president campaigns for midterm elections, the CIA confirms the location of 3 medium-range ballistic missile sites. ExComm quickly meets to analyze the escalating situation. The initial discussions center around a decisive military response. To keep the public and the Soviets unaware that anything is amiss, Kennedy fakes a cold and returns to Washington. Back in Washington, the ExComm meetings are highly charged. Advisors are deeply at odds on the best response to the crisis. Many in the group insist on airstrikes, or even an invasion of Cuba. After much deliberation, ExComm settles on a naval blockade as an initial response to the crisis. It's considered a strong but limited use of force, leaving the U.S. with more flexibility to react to changing conditions. Kennedy prepares to address the nation, but first writes a letter to Khrushchev, reinforcing the U.S. position and cautioning the USSR to tread carefully.
Good evening, my fellow citizens. This government, as promised, has maintained the closest surveillance of the Soviet military buildup on the island of Cuba. Within the past week,
during the televised speech, U.S. military forces are placed on heightened alert, from DEFCON 4 to DEFCON 3, one step closer to war.
To halt this offensive buildup, a strict quarantine on all offensive military equipment under shipment to Cuba is being initiated. All ships of any kind bound for Cuba, from whatever nation or port, where they're found to contain cargoes of offensive weapons, be turned back. Should these offensive military preparations continue, thus increasing the threat to the hemisphere, further action will be justified. I have directed the armed forces to prepare for any eventualities.
I'd hate like heck to see us go to war, but if it's necessary to prevent a nuclear war, I think the action has to be taken at this time.
Well, I think it's high time we stopped Russia from having things our own way.
I know that some action should be taken, but he's going to have to tread very lightly, short of war.
Our goal is not the victory of might, but the vindication of right. Not peace at the expense of freedom, but both peace and freedom here in this hemisphere, and we hope around the world. God willing, that goal will be achieved. Thank you and good night.